They came for him at midnight. The sound of boots on concrete still haunts my sleep, and what they did to him in that cold room changed me forever. This is the story of how I lost everything to find the one thing that mattered. Before I continue, I need to know something. Drop a comment below and tell me where you're watching from. Whether you're in Lagos, London, New York, or anywhere in between, we're family now. We need to pray for each other, especially for those who are suffering right now for speaking the name I'm about to share with you. Now, let me take you back to where it all began. My name used to be Ibrahim, but that name died the night they dragged my best friend Yusuf from his home. I was 14 years old, living in a small town where the call to prayer marked every hour of our lives like a clock we couldn't escape. My father was an imam, respected and feared in equal measure. Our house sat next to the mosque, and I grew up believing that the sound of Quranic recitation was the sound of God himself speaking. Yusuf lived 3 houses down from ours. We grew up together, memorizing verses side by side, racing each other to finish our prayers first, dreaming about becoming great teachers like our fathers. He was my brother in every way except blood. We shared secrets, dreams, and a faith we never questioned because questioning meant betrayal. Everything changed one afternoon when Yusuf came to my room with fear in his eyes. He looked over his shoulder twice before closing the door. His hands were shaking as he pulled a small book from under his shirt. It wasn't the Quran. The cover was worn and the pages were thin like tissue paper. He told me he had been reading it for weeks, that someone had given it to him at the market, that he couldn't stop thinking about what it said. I asked him what book it was. He whispered the title so quietly I almost didn't hear it. The Gospel, he said. The words of Isa, the one they call Jesus. My blood ran cold. I told him to throw it away immediately, that he was playing with fire, that our fathers would kill us both if they knew. But Yusuf didn't look scared anymore. He looked peaceful, like he had found water in a desert I didn't know we were walking through. He told me about a verse he had read, something about Jesus saying that he came to give life, abundant life, not just rules to follow. He told me that for the first time, he felt like God actually wanted to know him, not just test him. I pushed him away. I told him he was being fooled, that Christians had corrupted their scriptures, that we had been warned about this our entire lives. He left my room quietly, taking that dangerous book with him. I didn't sleep that night. I kept thinking about the look in his eyes, that strange peace that seemed to glow from somewhere deep inside him. 2 weeks later, Yusuf stopped coming to the mosque. His father noticed first. Then the whispers started spreading through our community like poison in water. People said he had been seen talking to a Christian man near the town border. Someone claimed they saw him remove his prayer cap and throw it in the trash. The elders called a meeting. I sat in the back of the mosque with the other young men, watching as Yusuf's father stood before the community with shame covering his face like a veil. He told everyone that his son had been bewitched, that evil spirits had entered their home, that he was trying to bring Yusuf back to the right path. My father nodded in agreement, along with all the other men. They decided that Yusuf needed to be corrected, disciplined, reminded of who he belonged to. That night, I snuck out and went to Yusuf's window. I whispered his name until he came to the glass. His face was bruised. His lip was split. He told me his father had beaten him for 2 hours, demanding that he burn the book and repent. But Yusuf refused. He told me something I will never forget. He said that he had tried to go back, tried to force himself to pray the old prayers, but every time he bowed down, he felt empty. But when he read about Jesus, when he prayed to him, something answered back. Not with fear or distance, but with love. I begged him to pretend, to lie, to do whatever it took to survive. He smiled at me through the bruises and told me he couldn't. He said he had finally found truth and he would rather die than go back to pretending. I thought he was being dramatic. I thought he would change his mind when things got harder. I was wrong. 3 days later, they came for him. I was lying in bed when I heard the shouting. I ran to my window and saw 6 men, including my own father, dragging Yusuf out of his house. His mother was screaming, clawing at their arms, but they pushed her aside like she was nothing. Yusuf didn't fight back. He didn't scream. He just looked up at the sky like he was seeing something none of us could see. They took him to the community center, a concrete building behind the mosque where they usually held meetings. But that night, it became something else. I followed them in the shadows, my heart pounding so hard I thought it would burst through my chest. I hid outside the window, pressing my face against the iron bars, watching everything. They tied Yusuf to a chair in the center of the room. My father stood in front of him with a Quran in one hand and a leather strap in the other. He asked Yusuf one question. Do you reject Jesus and return to Islam? Yusuf lifted his head. His voice was steady. He told them he couldn't reject the one who had saved him, the one who had shown him what love actually meant. That's when the beating started. My father struck him first, the leather strap cutting across Yusuf's back with a sound that made my stomach turn. Other men joined in. They took turns, each one shouting verses from the Quran, as if the words could erase what Yusuf had found. Blood began to seep through his shirt. His head dropped forward. But even then, even through the pain, I heard him whisper something. Jesus, help me. They beat him for over an hour. I watched through that window, frozen, unable to move, unable to scream, unable to do anything except witness my best friend being destroyed for speaking a name. When they finally stopped, Yusuf's body was limp. His breathing was shallow. They untied him and dragged him back to his house, throwing him at his mother's feet like garbage. She wailed. She begged them to take him to a hospital. But my father shook his head. He told her that Allah would heal him if he repented, that suffering was his path back to truth. Then they all left, including my father, who walked past me without even knowing I was there. I ran to Yusuf's house. His mother let me in, her face wet with tears. Yusuf was lying on a mat in the corner, barely conscious. I knelt beside him and whispered his name. He opened his eyes slowly. Even then, even broken and bleeding, he smiled at me. He told me not to be afraid. He told me that he had seen Jesus in that room, standing beside him, holding him through every strike. He said he wasn't angry at our fathers or the men who hurt him. He said he forgave them because that's what Jesus had taught him to do. I didn't understand. How could he forgive people who had nearly killed him? How could he still believe in a God who didn't stop the beating? But Yusuf just gripped my hand weakly and told me something that shattered every wall I had built around my heart. He said that Jesus didn't promise to take away suffering. He promised to walk through it with us. And that made all the difference. Yusuf died 3 days later. His body couldn't recover from the wounds. Officially, they said he died from an illness. No one investigated. No one asked questions. The community moved on as if he had never existed. But I couldn't move on. I couldn't forget the peace in his eyes or the way he forgave the very people who destroyed him. I started searching. Late at night, I would sneak out and walk to the edge of town where the Christian man lived, the one who had given Yusuf the gospel. I was terrified, but I had to know. I had to understand what was worth dying for. The man's name was Samuel. He was old, with kind eyes and hands that shook when he poured me tea. I told him everything. He listened without judgment. Then he handed me the same book Yusuf had carried, worn and stained but still intact. He told me to read it and decide for myself. He told me that Jesus didn't force anyone to follow him. He only invited. And the invitation was always the same. Come to me, all who are tired and heavy, and I will give you rest. I took the book home and hid it under my mattress. Every night, I would read by flashlight, my heart racing with every page. I read about Jesus healing the sick, loving the outcasts, forgiving those who betrayed him. I read about his death on a cross and his resurrection 3 days later. And slowly, painfully, beautifully, I began to understand what Yusuf had found. It wasn't just a religion. It was a relationship. It wasn't about earning God's approval through rituals and fear. It was about receiving his love freely, without condition, without performance. One night, I couldn't hold it in anymore. I fell to my knees in my room and whispered the same prayer Yusuf had prayed. Jesus, I don't fully understand you, but I believe you're real. I believe you died for me. I believe you rose again. I want to follow you, even if it costs me everything. The moment I said those words, something broke open inside me. It felt like chains I didn't know I was wearing suddenly fell off. I cried for hours, not from sadness, but from relief. I was free. But freedom came with a price. Within weeks, My younger brother found the gospel under my bed. He told my father immediately. The beating I received was worse than anything I had imagined. My father didn't just use his hands. He used a wooden rod, striking me across my back, my legs, my arms. He screamed that I had disgraced our family, that I was worse than a dog, that I deserved to die. My mother stood in the corner, silent, her face a mask of grief. She didn't defend me. She couldn't. In our world, defending me would mean she was against Allah himself. They locked me in my room for 2 weeks. No food except bread and water once a day. No contact with anyone. Just silence and darkness. They thought they could starve the faith out of me. But every night I prayed. And every night, I felt Jesus near me, closer than my own breath. On the 15th day, I heard a knock on my window. It was Samuel, the old Christian man. He whispered that he had arranged for me to escape, that there was a safe house 3 towns away where other believers hid. He told me I had to leave that night or I wouldn't survive. I was terrified. Leaving meant I would never see my family again. It meant I would be hunted. It meant my name would be cursed in the mosque. But staying meant denying the one who had saved me. And I couldn't do that. Not after what Yusuf had shown me. That night, I climbed out my window and ran. I ran through fields and back roads, my heart pounding, my body weak from days of starvation. Samuel met me at the town border with a car. We drove for hours in silence until we reached the safe house. It was a small building hidden behind trees, run by a network of believers who rescued people like me. When I walked in, I saw others, young men and women who had lost everything for Jesus. We didn't need to speak. Our scars told the same story. I lived there for 6 months, learning, healing, growing. They taught me more about Jesus, about grace, about the Bible. I was baptized in a river one early morning, surrounded by brothers and sisters who had become my new family. As I came up from the water, I felt the weight of my old life wash away. It's been 3 years since I left. 3 years since I've heard my father's voice or seen my mother's face. Sometimes I wonder if they think about me. Sometimes I wonder if they regret what they did. But mostly I just pray for them. I pray that one day, they'll find the same truth Yusuf found, the same truth that set me free. I now spend my days helping others escape. I work with Samuel and the network, reaching out to those who are trapped, who are questioning, who are dying inside but too afraid to leave. I tell them about Yusuf. I tell them about the peace that's worth more than safety, the truth that's worth more than comfort. I won't lie and say it's easy. I still have nightmares. I still flinch when I hear the call to prayer. I still miss my mother's cooking and my brother's laugh. But I wouldn't trade this freedom for anything. Because I know now what Yusuf knew. Jesus is real. His love is real. And he's worth everything. And rose again on the 3rd day. I confess that I am a sinner and I need you. Come into my heart. Forgive me. Change me. Make me new. I give you my life today. In your name I pray. If you prayed that prayer, welcome to the family. You're not alone anymore. Reach out to a believer near you. Find a church. Read the Bible. And remember, the same Jesus who walked with Yusuf through suffering, who walked with me through mine, will walk with you through yours. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share this story with someone who needs to hear it. Drop a comment below and let me know where you're watching from. Let's keep praying for each other. Let's keep standing together. Until next time, stay strong in the Lord. And remember, you are loved. You are seen. You are free. God bless you.